friends! I'm looking to write a new musical focusing on the Asian American experience, and I'm currently on the hunt for lead/co-book writers.
I knew of Julia because we were in the orchestra together at Harvard, and I didn't even know that she had this big musical career side of her. And I honestly don't know if she knew that I had this like writing side of me either.
I heard about the project through a mutual friend of me and Julia's, Caroline. And for me, at the time I was studying film in Boston, and I was super interested in telling more Asian American stories.
So I knew that I didn't want to do the project by myself. I just by nature love collaboration, and I really like working, especially with other people in terms of developing a story, developing characters. And I was really interested in writing the music and lyrics for the show. So I wanted to find some collaborators on the book, also known as the script of the show.
I remember it was like a Skype call in June.
Everything we did was done through a Skype call and video call.
And I remember feeling like I was the least experienced one for sure.
First meeting both John and Julia was somewhat intimidating because I didn't know them at all and they were complete strangers, especially walking in for me, not having any theatric experience.
So I think we kind of worked in like 3 different phases. So the first phase was figuring out what is this story and what is the story about.
I remember the various like spurts that we had, like starting and stopping lots of different projects, trying out new ideas. But I remember really wanting to deal with the idea of kind of being split between 2 different cultures.
And eventually I remember looking back at my life when I was very young. When I was in my early teens, I worked in a Chinese restaurant in New York City as a busboy. The significance of a restaurant, not just for enjoying cultural food, but as a place of representation for a culture. At the same time, I was thinking about gentrification.
Well, Jared was actually the one who had the idea to make it about a restaurant, and about saving a restaurant. We had this, that was kind of the first big idea that we all really liked.
I personally remember that, like at that point, I was really interested in like histories of food. Like food is a sort of place where lots of different forces are competing, like culturally and historically.
And the food we landed on was dumplings. They're super significant to Chinese culture, and they're familiar enough to build an approachable story around them.
I remember sort of agonizing over the characters that would eventually go there and like how the characters were related, whether they were like friends from kindergarten or whether they were wealthy or whether they were twins. I remember Vera and Patrick were supposed to be twins.
I think a really great part of our friendship is making fun of each other, which really kind of turned into the 3 main characters of the show. And I think that came directly from the 3 of us just like laughing in the Skype room together. Phase 2 was where we really fell into this rhythm where we would meet every single week.
We would split the work. I would take one scene, Julia would take another, Jared would take another. We would all come together, sort of read it out loud and like respond, say what works, what doesn't work.
I think for me, a huge mission of the show was getting my Asian American peers at Harvard who didn't like theater, who didn't want to go see theater, to come see a show that was about them. And so for me, a lot of the music was just made to be catchy and the sort of music that you'd come in and it welcomes you. And then phase 3 was the editing phase, which was a little wacky. We kind of just would go through the script and just kind of cleaning things up.
As the summer came to an end, we all came back to Boston and Cambridge, and I got to meet Julia and John for the first time.
The day that we finished the first draft of the script, there was this little skinny mirror, so we all kind of crammed in there. We took a picture with our computer, and it said, "We finished the musical." I remember that was so momentous. And then we went downstairs into the dining hall, and someone had left a tray of dumplings down there, which we took as like a sign from the universe because our show was all about dumplings.
There were a couple directions for naming the show. I'd made a joke of naming it East Side Story as a play on words, but ended up fighting for Miss Chen's Dumpling House. Then Julie and John took the former and made it something better, the East Side.
During that whole semester, I had been sort of looking around saying, okay, who might be able to do light design for the show? Who might be able to direct the show? Who might be able to stage manage the show? And so I knew the people that I needed. I just needed to find those people.
The big part for me for the East Side was it was a show about people that look like me or have similar experiences and struggles by people that look like me or have similar experiences and struggles. So it just felt right. It felt like this was a chance to actually sort of rewrite some things.
I love singing. I love just how fun theater can be, but I wasn't able to find a show that really resonated with me up until Julia asked me to be a part of a reading for the East Side. The East Side was put together, I guess, largely by the new student group, the Asian Student Arts Project.
I was having a sleepover with my friend Chloe. One of the things we talked about were the fact that we knew so few other Asian people involved in the theater scene at Harvard at the time. And we talked about Black Cast and Teatro, which are two minority student groups for theater on campus. And we said, why is there no Asian group? We said there should be. And so we ended up expanding from there for just having a theater organization to having an arts, all-encompassing Asian arts organization. So that's how the club was founded. At the same time, because I had one foot in ASAP and 1 foot in the East Side, I felt like it would be a great show to be our inaugural production.
I remember growing up and I remember seeing no Asian Americans on stage. Just playing an Asian American on stage occupies a really niche and needed role in theater today. That also gives me a lot of hope, because I'm giving back something that I could not receive.
One of my favorite things is that just like the process of making it was filled with such joy. Everybody brought their A in and everyone wanted to be there and wanted to work on this together.
There were some really special moments, I remember, with the cast where we were all hunkering down at dress rehearsals where everyone is simultaneously trying to remember their lines and practice, but at the same time has stuff due, like literally that night, and is working on that.
I remember Ramona and Feroz, they were working out, I think, the choreography. They were having such a great time, and it was just such a joy to watch. I think one of the things that drew me to Michelle was how familiar she felt to me. Pressure that you put on yourself, right, to be perfect and to try to do everything. And so I felt a lot of kinship with Michelle, to kind of make her someone who, yes, had these issues of authority within her own family, but very much presented this self-assured face to the rest of the world.
Building the set, participating in that during the production of the musical, that was really amazing. That was really fun for me.
To be able to, on an intimate level, bear witness to the creation of this very personal project for a lot of people just gave me a lot to think about.
And I think just everyone was really high strung, just trying to make it perfect just because we knew it was such an important show.
Knowing that the whole thing was sold out, knowing that managers over at the theaters were like, I don't know what you're doing up with this show, but like it is, we've never had this many people email for tickets when we're already sold out. Like we've never had just this much diversity in the group of people that came to see our show, this many young people. It was constantly like, we've never had this happen before.
I remember standing on stage with Jared and with Keehup, having a bustling audience, and everyone is excited to see the show and they're holding their programs. That is one of the things I love about theater. We gave our little announcement, and I wanted everyone kind of to know how important this project was to us.
For me, seeing that crowd of people, many of them being Asian American and many of them not, prepared and anticipated watching a show about an Asian American story, that was such a moment of appreciation.
It was exciting to see people reacting to jokes or to sad moments the way that we hoped they would.
Sometimes you have to leave the ones you love alone.
Every person that I talked to, especially among the Asian American people who watched it, said like, I've never seen a musical that actually talked about the Asian American experience, and it was so meaningful.
We invited 60 kids from Chinatown after school. They would kind of perk up or giggle or make a little face every time they heard a word in Chinese or every time they saw Dumpling on stage. And I realized like that is the experience that I want to give to other people and other kids especially. It was the first time I ever really felt like, wow, we made a difference. We made a really big difference. And a lot of people who had never even come to a musical, had never seen a musical before, came to the show, and they liked it. And that was just more than I could hope for. I just remember standing back there and thinking, this could not have happened without, like, every single person. There were, I think, 40 people involved in the making of the show. Every single person was so important to the making of the show.